This is a ManeHustle Media podcast.
Hey y'all, this is Xavier Nicole, aka your girl's favorite lesbian, and you're listening to Black Radical Queer Podcast, our stories on our own terms. Hi everyone, this is Black Radical Queer Podcast. I'm your host, Xavier Nicole. Of course, as usual, I'm going to let my guest introduce himself so he can go ahead and give you information about who he is, where you can find him, and then we will get into our conversation.
Hi, I'm Xavier. I'm a graphic designer, and I own coming soon apparel company called The Paper Co. So you can find me on IG at @the_paper_co. Also, you can follow me on my personal page, which is at King Xavier, and that's KINGXACHRIS. Basically, that's it. Like, I'm ready to get into it.
All right. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I, of course, already know I follow you on like all the social media. So I saw, I know that sounds a little stalkerish, but I saw your post where you had like your shirts, the Black Trans and Gifted shirts, which are dope as hell. So
thank you.
So how, like, when did you decide that you wanted to, because is that the first, I guess, like apparel for the Paper Co? Or did you already, because I feel like I've heard the Paper Co before, like in terms of some stuff you were doing, but is that going to be kind of like the thing that you used to launch?
Actually, no. So it's not the first line, not the first shirt or whatever for the line. It was kind of like just like a passion project that I just threw in there because I was like, oh, it's Pride. And I've had the idea for the shirt, but it wasn't like something that was going to be added. So I have a couple other things that, that I was working on, but then it was like, this is something that, I kind of wanted to just do for me. But then it was like, when I talked to other people, it was like, oh, that would be cool to like, share. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I started like just thinking like, okay, well then I'll offer it to other people, especially since, like I said, Pride Month was coming up. So like, I think on June 1st, I was just like, hey, I got this shirt. Like, if you want to order it, like, just hit me up, DM, and, send me a Cash App. So it wasn't even really like going to be a part of the line.
Right.
But I think because like I don't have like I'm not really launching until like mid-fall because I have some things I'm trying to do as far as I'm going on an international trip and I'm trying to see like if I can get it popping over there. So that's like the reason why like the launch is so late. But I felt like I said, it is Pride Month, and I wanted to give it to give people like myself some apparel to rock, because I feel like especially trans is left out of a lot of stuff during Pride Month, but then on top of that, especially Black trans people. So it was like right, yeah, it's like it's like in every community, Black is like at the bottom, and it's like being at that intersection. I wanted to, like I said, it was a passion project for me, and I felt like this is just something I'll do for me, something I can rock, what I'm saying. But then it was like my friends was like, hey, you should give other people that opportunity too, because it's
but did that surprise you? I mean, because you initially did it for yourself, so when there was kind of more interest in it, did it surprise you at all, or were you like, okay, well, because it's a lot of times when we do stuff that's like, okay, well, this is for me. I mean, the reality is there are other people who are like us who will also need it too.
Right.
I mean, that's very much like a lot of the premise of this podcast was, well, I know I'm not the only person. I know I'm not the only person who wants to be able to hear the stories of other Black queer folks type thing. So it's for me, like I can say, but not just for me. So I don't know if once you saw that other people kind of had that interest in it, if it surprised you, you kind of had this like unintentional pre-launch situation that came out of really just you doing a passion project.
Right. So it kind of surprised me, but not so much, because it's like I said, like at that intersection, like I've gone into like I'll say debates with people both Black and trans.
Does that put in nicely?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, we are grown, so
yeah,
I mean,
but it's like I don't want to say I'm like arguing with folks because it's like people that are like my friends, close friends, and it's like we kind of like get into it because I'm very pro-black, you know what I'm saying, but it's like I'm also trans, so it's like I care about black issues and trans issues, and it's like in both of those communities, it's like, black people, the whole, family situation, community situation that, goes back to religion and all of that. It's like, they're against like, LGBTQ, type of situations. And then you have the trans community, which, like I said, is like
overwhelmingly anti-black.
Exactly. So it's like I'm a part of both of those communities, and both of those communities sometimes have things against the other part of my life. So it's like I can be for both. I'm not going to exclude one or the other because I am both. And I have some people that in my life, like, hey, well, I'm trans first or this, that. I feel like I don't care what you say, I'm black first because somebody seeing me on the street, like
that's what they're gonna see.
Exactly, they're gonna see black first. And like I try to break it down to be like, hey, like if I was found like unconscious on the street on my face, right, from a distance, like people coming up to help me, they'll see that I'm black. Like before they see anything, like they might even not know, gender wise, how I identify, whatever. They'll see that I'm black.
See your skin tone.
Exactly. They'll see that I'm black first. And it won't be until, maybe they turn me over, well, okay, well, this, looks like a guy or whatever. And then, I get to the hospital, whatever. And then it's like, okay, I'm trans. It's like, I'm black first.
Right.
But that don't mean I don't care about trans issues.
Right.
But
it doesn't negate and that's part of the reason of this is like I want people to understand that we have all these things that intersect. And it is black, radical, queer because I am black first. Like it just is what it is. But there are all these other things that intersect with that. And you can't be expected to basically compartmentalize and be like, okay, in this space, I am just black. In this space, I am just trans. In this space, I am just a man. You know what I mean? Like that's not real life.
Right. Exactly. And like I have some friends who feel like that, and like one of my friends who's just saying, basically like, it's the black people that teased her or did all this stuff when she was younger. I was like, I get that, but what I'm saying, it's like you don't understand, like it's not the people that's like all out up front against you that is really hurting you. It's people behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? It's like politicians, people making, laws and stuff that go against you. And you're not seeing that. You just like, oh, well, this is what the black people done to me. What about what white people have been doing to black folks for years, hundreds of years?
We have to consider all those things. So we can't look at it like either or. We have to look at it like both, which is hard to do because we're going to first see who's closest to us. So if I'm going throughout my day-to-day life and the people I engage with in my community, in my family, in my relationships, those are the people who are the closest in to me. So that's who I see as having like that immediate impact on my life. And a lot of times we're not in a position to look more broadly than that because of just the realities of day-to-day life and trying to survive. We don't get to look at it from a broader perspective. Some of us do, which is why we kind of have to be that person to serve as a bridge for our folks who can't do that. Some people cannot do that. They don't have the resources or the perspective to be able to look at it that broadly. So they're just like, look, I know I live my day-to-day life. These are the people that impact my day-to-day life. So that's kind of like what I feel like has the impact on me, but they don't understand like how that's systematic or how that's systemic, and how the way that those people are treating them is as a result of things that have been ingrained on a systemic level. So they don't get to see all the different levels, it's like all we can do is kind of try to like be a resource and give folks the information. And also understand that sometimes they're not going to get it. And that's still okay because they still got their life to live and they're still dealing with it on a day-to-day basis. So it's kind of like we have to pick and choose, I guess, our battles to a certain extent because you're looking at it more broadly. And the reality is that everybody doesn't have that perspective. Like they can't really see outside of, okay, this is what happens in my day-to-day life with the people that I see, every single day.
Yeah, and I totally get that. it's just, like I said, I can't imagine not, I guess, siding with both. I can't like imagine only being like concerned with trans issues. I just couldn't imagine that, because like I said, I'm black first. I've always been black, you know what I'm saying? I've felt trans since, I knew what it was, since I was, like 5 or 6 years old. But it's like I've always been black. So like I'm going hard for both, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not about to let, somebody, talk, down about black people, whatever, but I'm not about to let somebody, talk down about trans people. So it's that, I guess, like that duality for me is like, I can go hard for both, causes. And it's just kind of, I don't want to say upsetting, but it's just like, I just find it hard that, you people who can't do both. It's like you are both, but you choose to side with one side.
We have to have folks who kind of run that spectrum. So, I mean, a lot of times people are going to kind of like side with the thing they feel like impacts them the most frequently, impacts them the most, I guess, like something that's the most difficult. So for instance, if I'm like, okay, I'm black and I have grown up around black people and I'm kind of like immersed in blackness, then I may feel like, oh, well, my blackness isn't the issue, it's my transness. So like that may be, it skews your perspective. The more you navigate different spaces, like then you start to see, okay, well, actually it's both, it's both those things. So I think a lot of it comes from like their vantage point. And so your vantage point is one, I mean, even where you live, I mean, it puts you're not in a place where you can do that. Like you're not in a place where you can ignore one or the other, or where you can kind of like choose to just focus on one or the other, versus someone who is, let's just say that's all they're used to is kind of like being immersed in blackness. They don't, even though there are issues that, of course, there are issues that come with being black, but they may not see that as something that stands out to them, because they're like, well, I feel like, I started being treated differently once people knew that I was trans or something like that. They may feel like that is their kind of like, that is where their oppression comes in. It is hard, though, because the more that you learn, it is hard for me to imagine compartmentalizing those things, which is why intersectionality is so important. But we are all kind of like in different places with it. So we need like people who do recognize that and who are able to speak on that and kind of like, help folks who aren't in that place. We kind of just need people that are all across the spectrum of wherever they are in their journey. But I don't know, it's interesting to me because, you go to different spaces and people do expect you to kind of just be this one thing, this very flat person, and kind of like just, well, okay, I won't say that across the board, because that's only expected for certain people. That's not expected for white people.
Right.
That's not expected for straight people. So I will just be clear with that. But it is expected for everybody else. If you're not, white, cis het, then it's expected for everybody else to, when you show up to a space, it's kind of like you are just one thing. You are just a man, or you are just a trans man, or you are just a black man or something like that, or a black person. You are expected to, like, that's it. And you're supposed to leave all the other stuff behind, when it's like, okay, well, all these things work together to impact my day-to-day life. And so you find, you end up being in these spaces where it's like, oh, I can only show up as this one thing. So have you looked for, or have you found, I guess is a better thing to ask, a community that is like, okay, well, these people exist at these intersections. So when I show up, I can show up as my full self, not just as a black person, or not just a trans person, or not just a man. You can show up as your full self with all those things taken into consideration, and feel like you're understood, or feel like you're supported, or just feel like feel like you have some type of community. Like, is that something that you've been able to find?
Kind of like, there's like, on the surface, I would say it's available, but like showing up, not really, because like there's this like party or something that they like put on, and it's supposed to be for, queer, and trans, people of color, right? But it's like, it doesn't quite, seem like that's the case when you show up and, you're standing in line, and it's like, it's more of other folks than your folks, and you can't even get in.
What? Okay, wait, pause. We're going to backtrack. Okay, so the premise of the event is that it is for queer people of color.
Yes, and it's like you're like standing outside, and then it's like, oh, we're too full.
It's not looking real colorful.
Exactly.
What?
And it's like,
okay, but who's hosting the event? Is it actually queer people of color hosting it, or is it like non-people, folks who are not people of color trying to create a space?
No, it is in a certain extent. Like, I guess it's a group. It's a group. I'm not gonna mention the group, but it's a group, and they put on events. But I mean, and I guess it's because Portland is extra white, so you can't you can't keep people out. But I guess I would feel differently if it was
you
like
can if it's supposed to be a space for a specific set of people. Then we have to be like more adamant and unapologetic about our damn spaces. It's like, okay, well, no, actually, this ain't for you. Like,
right, exactly. I guess I would even feel differently if it was, QPOC to the front of the line, something like that. But it wasn't like that. But on the other hand, there is another event like that this guy puts on. It's like every Monday. I think now he has like 3 days he puts on a different event. I haven't been to the one on Wednesdays or Fridays because I hadn't been off on those days. But he does have a thing on Mondays that I've been to before, which is called Legendary Mondays, and it's basically real like Black. And people are cool, so it's a good little time. It's a small space, but it's pretty cool. It's not necessarily just for trans people, but it's Black queer people, and and it's a good space. And then also I just hang around with my friends. Like I have other trans friends out here. I'll be honest, I normally stay to myself. I'm kind of antisocial. But now that it's like summertime, like I'm trying to get out more. But here during the winter, I don't want to go nowhere, or even the fall because it's raining all the time.
Like, I'm just gonna hibernate. I ain't got time for this.
Exactly. And then that's what most Black folks here do, anyways. Like we stay inside, but so it's like going out like. When it's not summer, it's like it's just a sea of white people, and it's like,
white people in snow.
Right, exactly. And then it's like I've been here almost 3 years. I would have been living here 3 years in August, and I still get excited when I see another Black person. Like I don't care who they are, I get excited.
It's like, oh, it's some color.
Exactly. Like I was on the train. Like I don't know how long ago this was. It might even have been a year ago. I can't even remember. But a Black guy came and sat next to me on the train. I was coming home from work one morning, and when I got off, he told me to have a good day. And when I tell you, like that made me feel so good. It still made me feel good. Okay. Like,
how did you end up in Portland? It's like, because it's been a long time. I actually don't remember how long I've known you, but I do know that you are definitely pro-Black, like, so I'm like, yeah, you're one of like the folks who I know are just blackity Black. Like, look, this is what it is.
Right.
So I'm like, how did all that Blackness end up in Portland?
Right. So, we do go way back. You're supposed to have me on your radio show at Clayton State, but it never happened.
I know. But like, this is because, I transferred. So,
yeah. It's cool.
It's full circle. This is full circle.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. I'm not salty about it, but but I was living in Houston, and like I went to a music festival called Bonnaroo, and basically it was like life changing. It was just like so free and like hippie like or whatever, and I was just like, I need to like basically like live on my own terms. And when I went back home, I started like talking to my friends and talking to my sister and everything, and was like, it's been a long time coming, but I feel like, it's time for me to transition. And when I made that decision, I knew it would be hard doing that in Texas of all places. And then once I started going through the process and trying to do it, it was like, okay, I knew it'd be hard, but it's like, it was like a lot of roadblocks, especially like the time it took for you to get an appointment and to see.
Did you start that process in Texas?
I did. And it was just like, I know. And this is back in
just like
2014. Jesus. So it's just like I said, it was a lot of roadblocks, but I was able to get some stuff done, which I'm, glad before. I was able to get my name changed, and I was able to start hormones and stuff like that. But I knew, like, trying to get any further, like, transitional surgery and stuff like that, it would be hard because, you know, just insurance companies were not going to, like, be paying for it at that time. So one of the people I worked with, one of my coworkers at the time, was just saying how, you know, she used to live here or whatever, and, you know, it was very, like, trans friendly and stuff like that. So I started doing my research, and at the beginning of 2015, I just told my bosses, I was like, by August of this year, I'm going to be moving, just so you know. So, I mean, they had, like, it was like January. Yeah.
You're like, I'm out.
Basically. And so the job I have now, I applied for it July 5th. And I mean, I didn't get it first off. I didn't get it at first, but I applied for July 5th and a slew of other jobs or whatever. And I decided I was going to come out here and see how it was. So I came out here in like July something, I don't remember. And the second day I was here, I ended up getting an interview with a call center that was doing tech support for Apple. And they hired me on the spot. So I called my boss and was like, I got a job, so I'm going to be quitting when I come back. So, and I still had, like, I still had job, 5 so days. Still had 5 days left of my trip. So, like, I finished out my trip, went back home, put in my notice, packed up everything, and I moved back 2 weeks later. And I've been here ever since. It was like August 4th. I've been here. So I moved, August 4th, 2015. And like I said, I worked that call center job until January of 2016, and I got hired on where I work at now, the one that I applied for in July. So I didn't get hired until January the next year, but it was worth it. It was worth it. But that's how, you know, like I said, I got out here, and it was basically just, like I said, to, you know, be able to have access to better health care. And so it wouldn't be expensive.
I know you said it was a friend or a coworker who told you that it was very trans friendly, but have you found that to be true?
Yes. Black friendly, but trans friendly, yes. But let me.
So it's like, it's kind of like one. No, go ahead. What were you about to say?
It's just like, I'll say this, like, I like my racism Southern because it's up in your face. Out here it's subtle and it's just But I mean, it's like more of the microaggressions. And I mean, I noticed that even being in the state, we relocated around the same time. I remember like seeing posts and stuff, and I was like, oh man, like, you know, but I relocated. I came to visit LA in September of 2015, and then I moved in November of 2015. But my wife had already moved here. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time, but my wife had already moved here before me to try to like kind of get things started. And I was still in Atlanta in our place there. But just making that shift and getting to see how the culture is, it's West Coast is definitely different. And it is more underneath the surface and insidious and like more microaggressions. I do experience more microaggressions here than I did in the South. In the South, it's like, it is what it is. Like, I know the deal. That's fine. Wave your little Confederate flag. I'd rather know up front because I know how to deal with you. Yeah.
I know when I cross that territory of it's a bunch of like Confederate flags and guns and blah, blah, blah. But like out here, when I say you never know when it's going to come up. And so some of the situations where I've experienced microaggressions or racism have totally, and anti-Blackness too, because it's not just coming from white people, but it has just kind of like not blown my mind, but it's caught me off guard because in the South, I can't say I had ever been caught off guard by it because I know what to expect. But out here, I don't expect it not to happen because I'm like, well, no matter where you live, like anti-Blackness is global, so it is what it is. But it's just like I'll just be going about my, regular day, and the way it'll come out in my interaction with someone, I'm just like, what in the world, So it is kind of that stuff that's below the surface that really just kind of I don't know. It's not overt.
No, not at all. So, like I said, trans friendly, yes, it's like all, and I mean, they have like a lot of protections for, trans people and stuff like that. So that's good. And I mean, people here are nice. It's not everybody, of course, but, like you said, it was like you're kind of caught off guard, caught by surprise because, coming from the South, you, like you said, what's up. But out here, it's like, oh, that's how we moving. Okay.
Right. The way that it comes across is different, like, or the way that it comes out, because in the South, they'll just straight up, call you the N-word or something like that. They'll just, but
yeah,
it's just different. Like, it's like the subtle ways. And then I'll kind of look back, I'll step back and then I'll look at the situation like, am I tripping? Like, that didn't feel right to me. And then I have to kind of like think about it like, why did that feel odd to me? And it's because it's damn racist. It's because it's a microaggression.
Exactly.
So
like,
below the surface, and I'm just like, okay, I gotta actually stop and think about this. As opposed to in the South, it's like, well, no, I know you're, I know that you're being racist.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I've had that at work where it was just like, I wanted to like flip out so bad, but it was like, I was like so new. I was still within my probationary period because our probation period lasts a year. So it's just like, but I had been drawing because, like I said, I'm a graphic designer. I draw like anywhere on anything. And so for Halloween, I had drew Jack from Nightmare Before Christmas. I drew him up there, foot on a pumpkin and holding a pumpkin head and all this other kind of stuff. And my boss was like, she's real cool. I love my boss. She was just like, yeah, you could keep it up there. She was like, just change it with the seasons. And I was like, cool. So next month, November, he's like got his foot on top of a football helmet holding a turkey. Cool. Next month, December, I draw him up there, in his, Santa costume. January come, right. I erase him and I put up Martin Luther King because Martin Luther King Jr. Day is coming. You know what I'm saying? And I wrote a quote up there, and other people started adding other quotes. Fine.
Did you take a picture of that?
I did. And
okay, because I'm like, I feel like I saw a picture of that.
Yeah, I did. And so he was up there maybe 2 weeks, maybe. Now, mind you, all the other drawings up there, nobody ever touched. I was the only person who erased it. Mm-hmm. Now, 2 weeks go by. Like, I think I even left up, one of them I left up well over a month. I think it was the Christmas one, because I drew him like after Thanksgiving, which was, it was still November, and I left him up there until I drew Martin Luther King up there. So it was over a month that he had been up there. So I drew Martin Luther King. Like I said, other people was adding, quotes, and he was up there for maybe 2 weeks. And then I get back to work one night. He is erased, and it asked me for a new pic, please, with a smiley face.
Wow.
Exactly. And I was just like, what? Like,
wow. Yeah. That's
So, like, me being, because I'm petty, like what I did, I drew Consuela from Family Guy with her little squeegee and, saying, wiping away, half of the, the saying, about new pic please or whatever. And I left it up there for a couple hours, but then because I work overnight and most nights I work by myself. So I left it up there, but then I was like, you know what? I'm going to just erase it. That's it. I'm going to just erase it and never draw anything else up on this board again. I'm just going to erase it and I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And so, would you believe that next morning, it was two people involved, and one of the people involved came and asked me about it. It was like, I was looking to see what the next picture was going to be. And no, I'm not drawing. Like, I'm not in the mood. I don't feel like drawing.
It came up to y'all cheery. What are you gonna draw next?
Yeah, and it's like, no. And I'm still upset about it. Like, I'm just like, because it's just like,
because that is so. I mean, it's clearly, specifically targeting. Because it's like, okay, y'all were just fine when I was drawing all this other stuff, and then this MLK, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, new picture, and then too, that's so presumptuous too, to be like, for you to feel like you can just like erase something, somebody did and come back like, oh no, do something else. Like, no, this isn't. It's just taking something that's not even about them and making it about them. Like, oh no,
Exactly.
do something else. What? You got me messed up. See,
Right, exactly. And it was just like, I was like mind blown, you know what I'm saying? Because I was just like, what? And mind you, I'm the only black person at my job, so I'm just like,
right. So they're just like, oh, it's fine. Have him do
Right.
something. But see, that's the mindset though. Is like, oh well, okay, we've gotten bored with this. Have him do something else. And it's like, so that shows you people's mindset of like, okay, so you really feel like this person is like you're somehow kind of like doing something for you, like not like I can't even think how to phrase it, but it's like you really feel like this person is doing this thing for you, and it's like for your entertainment. Basically, that's what it boils down to. It's like, oh well, okay, let's have them do something. Like we're tired of that, and oh, that's too much. I mean, so it's like it takes something that is really you expressing yourself. The whole time was you expressing yourself, and they made it about themselves. About like, oh well, this he does this to entertain us.
Right. I just, like I said, like, and I took pictures of it. I took pictures of the comment and everything else, and I was just, like I said, I was frustrated. One of the people that was involved, like, transferred to another department, which was good because they were getting on my nerves anyway. Because they, I mean, I knew they were like pretty much, racist or whatever. Because I was trying to basically I was naive when I first started working there, so I was like giving him the benefit of the doubt and was trying to like explain like white privilege and stuff like that, and like discrimination and systematic racism and stuff like that. And would you believe this fool told me that he had been discriminated against because of his religion? Like, for your Christian,
yes. Look,
white,
yes, I would believe.
I mean, yeah,
but yes, I would believe that happened. Absolutely, that sounds like exactly like what a white person would say. Exactly. Well, I can relate to your oppression because I've been discriminated against for being Christian. You're a damn lie. It's not the same.
Exactly. It is not the same. It is not the same. So I'm just like.
And then, but you know what? The things that they consider to be discrimination are so ridiculous because they'll say, oh, well, at Starbucks, they don't say Merry Christmas anymore. They say Happy Holidays. And that is discrimination against my Christian beliefs. Like, it's like this, they have to grasp at straws when it comes to oppression. They want to be oppressed so bad, like want to have something to claim as oppression so bad that any little thing is considered like, oh my God, well, this person, like the whole thing about the Merry Christmas and the Happy Holidays, that goes against my religious belief. It's discriminating. And it's like, are you kidding me? We got people out here dying and you want to try to compare that to somebody saying Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas, and you are so oppressed. Get out of my face. Like, I just can't. But that's what they compare it to. To them, they're like, oh, this is action.
They're reaching. Basically, it's reaching.
Yeah. It's reaching, but they're also erasing. It's an attempt to erase experience. Right, absolutely. So they're like, oh well, I know you're expressing how you have legitimately been discriminated against. Let me tell you how I can relate. And it's bullshit, but it's like, let me tell you how I've been discriminated against. And they're trying to trump you. It's kind of like they want to one up you. Like, well, you're not the only one who's oppressed. Okay, all right. Thanks, Connor. Like, that really helps me a lot. Because it's just not. It's like, it's so ridiculous, though, the comparison, because I'm like, it's just not oppression. Like, you are not oppressed. You're not systemically, like, whatever little thing you went through is not systemically holding you back. It's just not. So did that keep you from getting a job? Did that keep you from getting housing? Did that keep you from having food? And the reality is, Black people, trans people, Black trans people, they are like, they're going through stuff that is impacting their well-being, their safety, their life, first of all, their lives, and also just stuff like basic needs like food, clothing, shelter, having a job. So until you deal with that, until you are like, oh, well, someone outed me and so I don't have a job, or I was stelled and someone outed me and now my safety's at risk. Until that's your reality, it's like, I ain't trying to hear shit you got to say, honestly.
Exactly.
Because it's just ridiculous. It's like you're just making up something, to be, I don't know, you're just making up something to say that you're oppressed, but it's like, you're so not. And the fact that you're scrambling to pull, kind of just pull anything that you can just shows that you're really not oppressed. You're just saying some shit. Right.
Because I ain't gonna lie, like when I was looking for a job, I used my middle name on my resume and my applications. And I mean, I got a job. I mean, and it sucks. It sucks, but it's like, especially since it's like in Texas, everybody could pronounce my first name, but it's like I came out here and I got Javier all the time, and I'm like, what? Exactly. It's like,
but you know what? Okay, you know what's crazy? I get called Javier. Now our names are totally different. Totally different. I get called Javier, so I don't understand what that's all about. Like, but for us to both get called, that's ridiculous because our names look nothing alike. They are not the same, and we both get called Javier. But I have used my middle name because my middle name is Nicole, and I've used my middle name on resumes and applications before too, just to see the difference. Like I'll apply for the job and I'll use Xavier. And it's no way I can deny my blackness, which I don't want to, but I love my name. But I'm just like, I'm going to do a little experiment and just see. And I'll do Xavier and then I'll do Nicole, and I'll just see. And now that I'm married, like my wife's last name is even more like, I feel like it would make my name sound, if I just use my middle name, it'll just sound real generic. So I'm going to try it and just see what happens. Because I noticed a difference. There are things I got in responses to when I use Nicole versus Xavier. And I'm like, everything else is the same. Still got these same degrees. I still got the same student loan debt. So, but that's the only change. But that's not what they're dealing with. So it's like we're already, of course, at a disadvantage. But to try to kick it like, oh, well, I've been depressed because of, okay, all right, that's cute, but it's bullshit.
Right. Like even like having to like disclose at a job because like almost like with the job I have now during the process of like getting like because you have to go through like an extensive background check and it's like it take a month long, but they were asking me about the lady that does the hiring or whatever. She was like that she couldn't find me in the system for like when you sign up for the draft, right? And so like she was asking me about it, and I didn't like put it together because she like gave like,
are you not a patriot? You didn't sign up for the draft. Oh my God.
Right. But she was just like she gave like the long title of it, so I didn't get that it was the draft. And so she asked me had I signed up for it, and I was like, no, I never signed up for that. And so she was like, oh well, it's a legal requirement when you turn 18, and because you haven't done that, you're not
when you register to vote,
job.
You automatically do it. Yeah.
Right. So she was like, you're not qualified for this job, and basically like you broke the law, so you have to like she was like saying,
about that. You're a criminal.
Right. So she was saying like I could like basically like the steps I can go to remedy me breaking the law. And so when I clicked on the link, I realized what it was. So I had to like message her back and explain why I didn't sign up for the draft. and then she was like, oh, okay. And then she's like, this is confidential and this will be, kept between, me and, the hiring supervisors and stuff like that. And we can move forward with your hiring process. And I was like, okay. And so it was just like, like the thing
that's something that people, right. I was going to say that's something that unless that's been your experience, like people who don't have to go through that would never think of that. You know what I mean? Would never think like, oh yeah, this could potentially keep me from getting a job because of this particular requirement.
Right.
Yeah, that's something that if you haven't had to go through that, then it's not something that you would think about.
Right. And then it's like some people probably would be like, oh, well, I don't want to like tell them. So I'm just not going to, go through with this job and be like, okay, well, thank you for your time. But it's,
but I mean, it's like, it is a tough spot to be in though, because especially you're going into a new place and you don't know what their reception is going to be like. So you don't know if I tell them, are they going to, kind of like out me to other people? Are they going to discriminate against me because of that? Like, you don't know how that's going to turn out. You know what I mean? You could, it could turn out okay, or it could turn out bad. And so it's a risk. And it's a risk that other folks don't have to go through. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But it's like you never know. So, I mean, now that you're there and you're like, you've been there for a few years and you're working there, do you see, like, what do you see happening, like, later on down the line? Like, do you feel like, oh, well, I could live here long term? Or you want to move somewhere else? Or because I don't know what you want to do, like in terms of for your future. Like I know you have your business, but in terms of, is there anywhere in particular you feel like, oh, well, I kind of more so want to settle down here, or I want to have my home? Is it a place that feels like home to you?
For me, I feel like no place but Atlanta would feel like home, even though it's like not even my birthplace. Only because
ATL.
Only because, that's where a majority of my family is, and my dad's only like 4 hours away from there. So it's just like, I'm like conflicted because like I do love my job. It's great benefits. Like I said, like the best benefits I've ever had. My manager and supervisors are like wonderful. And like for the most part, I love most of the people that I work with. And it, like, it's just a good job, and I love it. I love what I do. And it also, me working nights and, like I said, the benefits and everything of that job allow me the freedom to do, work on my, my clothing line and
to do the other things you want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And also like afford me, like I travel so much. That's the thing. Like that's what I'm known for at work. I'm known for loving Beyonce and traveling because that's all I do.
Right.
So it's like, and I enjoy that. So it's like, I don't know, like I don't see me leaving anytime soon. I mean, I stayed in Texas almost 7 years, and I didn't have nearly, the, financial stability and everything that I have now. So,
right.
I do see myself staying here for a while, at least until, like I hit the lottery or, my business really be popping.
I know that.
Because on like a national level, like, it's pretty safe here. Clean water, clean air, stuff like that. So it's like a lot of the stuff like you think about as far as like when you're getting older.
Matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, healthcare and things like that. And even like, protections when like stuff are, going on nationally, they put stuff in place to protect the citizens here against like, basically what, 45 is doing in office. So I enjoy that. Like I said, it's like a lot of stuff you have to deal with, but it's like I'd rather deal with it here than deal with it in other places. You know what I'm saying? Especially since I can move around like I want to do. I can travel like I want to do. So if like I get tired of being here, I'm going somewhere else. And if I feel like I need, a little love and little support of my family, I just go home and visit for a little bit, and I come back and I'm recharged. Yeah. So, like I said, I feel like, I'd probably stay here a while.
Well, I mean, it is good when you're able to be somewhere that of course, every place has its pros and cons. Yeah. But when you're able to be somewhere that it's like, okay, well, I know all the, there are these issues, but let me look at what my needs are and, which of my needs are getting met, because it's always going to be a downside no matter where you are. But I mean, and I will say it is different being on the West Coast and like the culture is different, but also the resources and stuff. Like I definitely have had more access to resources here in terms of healthcare than I did in Georgia. Like hands down. I have like, it's not as difficult to get those things. So like when I was like really, really depressed, and I'm like, okay, I need to get therapy. I need to do like mental health care. And it was like in Georgia, it was jumping through hoops. And I say like out here, it was very fast. I didn't have to wait very long at all to start seeing someone, or even just like going to the doctor and doing all that kind of stuff. It has just, the process has been a lot more streamlined, and access to it, it's just been easier. It really has. And so that's like one of the biggest advantages, even though, of course, I miss my people. Like I love the Blackness that is Atlanta. But in terms of like my health, I do feel like I have easier access to healthcare, more efficient. I don't have to wait for a super long time for things. And, I have like a rare eye condition. So that was, I had never got what I needed in Georgia. Like I would go see folks and they would just be like, oh, we don't know what to do. but there's so many advances and stuff out here that, you know, I'm not the first person they've seen, you know, with it. So they're just like, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do. And so it's just, I don't know, that has been a complete difference from what I went through in Georgia.
Yeah, like I said, like healthcare is like one of the biggest things, especially for me, you know, trying to get, you know, trans related surgeries and stuff like that. Like,
right.
I had, like, I got my top surgery last year, February of last year, and like a few days after I got it, like I did an interview with BuzzFeed, just basically like, you know, talking about, you know, access to the healthcare, and just saying like, like you said, waiting so long for an appointment. It's like, why does it have, like, why is it taking so long?
Right.
I remember, like I said, I got back from that festival in like June, and I think had contacted the clinic about, like, you know, going in to see somebody to, you know, talk about hormone therapy and stuff like that. And I might have did that around like July. I didn't get in to see anybody until October. And then after that, I didn't see anybody again until the end of January. And then I didn't get back in to see anybody until June. And it was like, well, I'm leaving anyway. Yes. And it's like, why does it take so long? It's like, it shouldn't take that long. When I moved out here, like I called, like the second day I was here, I called and I got an appointment later that week. To see somebody.
That discrepancy is ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. And it was an even smaller clinic here, like even smaller. So it's like, and they have a lot of, you know, patients, but it's just like, because I guess just the way they have it set up to where, you know, they can get people in. It's just like, it just, I don't know. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah,
they had
that's a big contrast.
Exactly. And I was like surprised because I thought, like, that's why I called the day after I got here, because I was like, you know, I don't know how long it's going to take. And, you know, I just want to make sure I get in there so I can get, you know, because I was already.
I know. You're like, look, let me go ahead and get this ball rolling.
Exactly. Then I'm in there in the next week and they're like, yeah, we just need to do these labs and then you can come back and, you know, we'll, you know, get you started. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, so it's just like, it was weird. It was weird. Like, even, you know, now, like, you know, because I'm within the Kaiser network, and it's like, if it's not a specialist, like, I could pretty much get in, you know, pretty soon.
Oh,
like,
yeah, they're really good about that. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, I just turned 30 at the end of last year. And when I tell you, like, I don't know what's up, but as soon as I turned 30, like, maybe like, it was like 4 o'clock that morning, I was at work and I was like, man, I do not feel well. And
no.
Right, I know. So later that night, I went to, like, I had like chills. I was sick. And so I was going on a vacation for my birthday. I was going on a cruise. And so that morning before I left to get on a plane, I booked an appointment to the doctor because I was like, I don't feel good. Finds out I had a bacterial skin infection on my side. So, you know, they just prescribed some antibiotics and I got it. But it's like, if I was in Houston, that would have not happened. It wouldn't have happened like that.
You would not have, probably would have had to not go on your trip.
Basically. And so it's just like that there alone is like why I would see myself being out here for a while versus going anywhere near the South to live, you know.
I mean, it's funny though, because you brought up something that I honestly, like, I've kind of sort of considered, but I hadn't fully thought about until you just said, in terms of, because I mean, I just turned 30. And so I do notice differences. Like, I do notice differences in, like, just my health, my body and stuff like that. And I never thought about the difference it will make being somewhere where I don't have to, like, wait forever to get healthcare and stuff like that, because I'm so used to that being the process. It's just been so different. And that does make a huge difference in terms of your quality of life and all that. It has definitely been very reassuring to me to be able to have access to those things quickly, because I'm used to that process of, like, you got to wait forever. And then you go to the doctor, and it's like, no matter what I'm going to the doctor for, they're asking me all these questions about, oh, well, who are your partners and all the other kind of stuff. And I'm just like, what does that have to do with what I came in here for? Then they're asking me all the stuff. Why aren't you on birth control or what? I'm like, oh, Lord. So it's this whole process when I didn't go through that out here. I mean, they just were like, okay, they don't make the same assumptions, and it just doesn't take so long. And the population is greater out here. It's way more people, but I don't know, the system is just more efficient. And I didn't realize, I just had no idea the impact that would have on my quality of life, honestly, until I came out here. Like, I just didn't even think about it.
Right. Like, I mean, I was only interested, like I said, in like trans related like surgeries and stuff at first, but
right.
yeah, it really became a focus of mine, getting older and realizing like, hey, I need to take, better care of my husband, especially, things, going back into like, they say black folks don't go to the, doctor and stuff like that. And, all of that. And it's like, of course you get older and you think like, well, there are reasons, why that, have been embedded in the minds of black folks and stuff.
Look,
I know.
Don't even get me started on that. Because that's because when I actually focused on that when I did, when I was in grad school, like my kind of like master's thesis thing was literally about like healthcare outcomes for Black folks and for people of color. And yeah, people try to kind of make it seem like, well, Black folks don't take care of themselves and they don't go to the doctor. But I'm like, there is a very historical, reason why we have this distrust of the medical industry.
Right.
And it's so valid and justified because I'm like, Black folks have been used as lab rats. So of course we got trust issues. But yeah, so of course we have this ingrained like distrust, the medical industrial complex, because look at how we've been treated. For one, we definitely have been used as lab rats. And then two, we go into these spaces and then we don't see people who look like us. And then these folks are incompetent. They have no cultural competence. And there's all these, when I was in school, like they have all these things talking about cultural competence. And I'm like, that's cute or whatever, but that's not solving the problem because you're still cranking out these doctors and counselors and all that kind of stuff who have no awareness, like they can't relate. They're serving in these communities and they can't even relate to the population there. So for one, it's like they shouldn't even be there. They need to focus their efforts elsewhere. But I don't need some doctor, like a white male doctor coming from somewhere totally outside of my area who has no idea kind of what the circumstances are, who has no cultural competence, trying to tell me what's wrong with me. Like, there's, of course, going to be a disconnect there. It's just inevitable.
Right. It's like, here, like I said, it's very, very white, but I'm like so thankful that my therapist is Black. I mean, blackity black. Like she like my Black aunt.
Ooh. Yes, Lord.
All right, and she even say to me,
having a Black therapist is everything because
yes.
I'm like, you're not about to. I can't unpack my stuff. Like you, white man, white woman, you're not gonna feel me. I can't be unpacking myself.
Exactly. Like, and I was nervous because when I went to the coordinator, she just asked me, did I have a preference of male or female, and I was like, no. And so she was like, okay. And then she set me up with this appointment, and she told me, she was like, if you have a problem or want to see somebody different, just let me know. I was like, okay. So when I went for my appointment, I didn't know what to expect, but I just knew it was going to be some white lady or, coming out of there. And sure enough, she came around that corner and I just was like, oh, what's up? Like I was so happy just because I knew it was somebody who could, relate to the things that, I'm going through. And like, and every time we have a session, it's always good because, she, relates on a level of, she knows where I'm coming from, especially like if there's basically like another, police killing or something, like we both share that pain, what I'm saying? And we can discuss it freely. And I know for a fact that she feels me, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and we talk about certain things, and it's just like, I know if I had a white therapist, we would not be talking about this. Then it's also
to fully do what you need to do, because if you're like, well, I can't tell this person this, they're not going to understand, that you're not even getting what you fully need out of therapy.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. Exactly. So it's like, I'm just so thankful because it's needed. And I feel like that's another reason why, some people don't seek out mental health treatment, because it's like, these people not gonna understand me. They're not gonna understand what I'm going through. They're not gonna understand why I'm feeling the way that I do.
Absolutely why. No, that's absolutely why, because folks are like, okay, well, this person can't relate to me. And I know, I mean, and I looked at it from an academic standpoint and all that, but also I know just from the standpoint of somebody who is a patient or who a client or whatever, I know what that's like to be like, okay, well, you know what? I'm not talking to this person. Like, I'm only going to give them the bare minimum amount of information because I know they can't relate to me. So it was very, very affirming to go to therapy. And well, I had more than one therapist because I had individual therapy and group therapy. And so my group therapy was like one of the guys was a white guy and the other one was a Latino man. But my individual therapist was a Black man. So, and my caseworker was a Black man. So it was like going to my individual therapist, you know, I would just, some stuff, what I like about kind of having that cultural similarities and having like that cultural connection is some stuff you don't have to explain in the same way. So I felt like with someone who can't relate to me in that way, I have to kind of explain things to them differently and more in depth versus I'm sitting, you know, across from this Black man and I'm like, look, so, you know, I don't have to break it down to the same extent. I can say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. And this, you know, this, that, and the third happened. And I don't have to go into this whole long drawn out explanation. You know, he just understands where I'm coming from because we have that, at least that baseline of cultural, you know, familiarity versus like with someone who I feel like can't relate to me like that. I'm like, okay, I have to like prepare you to even be able to help me. Like I have to give you all this context and all this background for you to kind of have all the tools you need just to even be able to have a conversation with me. And that is exhausting because it puts us in a position where we always have to teach. And I'm like, I used to be okay with that. And the older I get, the less okay I become with it. And now I'm over it. I'm like, I don't want to teach you shit. Like, exactly. You went to school. You need to be culturally competent. You need to take responsibility for yourself and seek out the education. I shouldn't have to teach you. So I'm just like, I'm over it. So now I'm like, don't even send them my way because I'm gonna have an attitude. Like I don't have time to be trying to like catch you up.
Right. Exactly. Like that's not my job.
It's not. Even though we're expected to do that. We are. We're
expected to do that emotional labor, like for free.
And I'm like, no, I ain't got time. Right. I ain't got the time. I got bills. You're not paying me.
Right.
So,
right.
You're moving.
Exactly. Like, and then especially if you're going in there, you got to copay. It's like I'm paying you, and then I got to teach you to help me. No. Mm-hmm. So,
but then it makes you. I mean, but then I understand why people don't want to go, and because that is so draining to be like, okay, before we even get started, let me go ahead and give you all this context and all this background, and you still are not going to fully understand me. And so, I mean, I see how it gets exhausting to like have to deal with that. And a lot of times folks just don't, and it's the thing too, like we talked about earlier about kind of coming from different vantage points. If I'm going to the doctor, the psychiatrist, the whoever, and I'm in a place of crisis, you think my mindset is I want to teach your ass? I don't have to teach you anything. I'm in a crisis. I need help. So it's like to come into it like I'm dealing with this stuff, but I still have to be prepared to teach. Everybody is not equipped to do that, depending on where you are. If I'm coming into it and let's say my issue is not one that's based on survival, then maybe I'll feel more like amenable to teaching or whatever. But if I'm coming in, I'm like, look, I'm struggling. I don't know how I'm going to make it. Like it's a survival thing. You think I want to have to try to teach you? You think that's really at the forefront of my mind. So that's why folks are like, well, no, I don't trust them. They don't understand. And I'm not going to go because they're like, I'm trying to live my life and I don't have time, to be trying to give them all this information and teach them before they can help me. Like I need help now. I don't have time for that. And that's valid, but we're still expected to do that work.
Right. I mean, just the level of things that we are expected to do is it's mind blowing as far as like you said, like getting the help that you need. It's like, I need help. So why am I helping you? You're supposed to be helping me at this point. Like,
right. This is your job.
This is your job. Like, exactly. Like you said, like if you're in a state of crisis, it's like speaking for myself, I know sometimes like I'm all over the place and I can't like focus on one thing. It's like I wouldn't be able to, even communicate, the type of thing, something like if I didn't have a black therapist, like I wouldn't be able to say, all the stuff that would be needed for them to be able to help me properly. They probably, just be like, okay, well, we gonna send you to this padded room real quick. You know what I'm saying? It'd probably be like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because like I would be
their understanding. Not even because of, you're so ridiculous or anything. It's like, well, no, it's just because they don't understand. But my thing is, this is their job. So it shows you the lack of regard because they don't feel like they have to be culturally competent. They feel like, oh, well, these things I've learned that apply to basically white cishet people should apply to everybody because they're supposed to be the standard, So these things I've learned, I don't need to have, but so it's like this arrogance and this lack of regard, like, oh, well, I don't need to do anything special to be equipped to deal with those people. That's really what it is. Like, I don't have to learn anything new or different. I don't have to have any specialized training or anything to be able to help those folks. And then it's like, we should be glad, like, oh, well, really, they need to be glad I'm seeing them anyway. They're doing us a favor. So there is this arrogance that is really ridiculous, but that's how our medical system has been operating for, decades, for centuries.
Right. So, and that's why I said, like, it's like so much to like go unpack with this whole narrative that black people don't go to the doctor and stuff like that. Like, it's just like, don't get me started. Like, you know what I'm saying? When somebody bring it up, don't get me started. But like I said, I'm just thankful that I, have a, black therapist. Like for my primary care, I had a Hispanic doctor, but he quit his practice. So now I have a white lady, but she's queer and she's really good. She's like really nurturing, which is good because, I've had instances where, doctors are kind of like, especially like guy doctors, like, I'm like, why are you like so, I don't know. It's just like, I can't even explain it. It's just like, I need you to like bring it down a couple notches and just like try to really like.
So are they like really like aggressive? Like, how do they engage with you?
It's kind of like, I don't want to say like aggressive, but it's kind of like, okay, I don't even want to say straightforward. I felt like,
they just don't have any bedside manner, just like
yeah, kinda. And I felt like even with my Hispanic doctor, I felt like I really had to be my own advocate because like I was diagnosed with a super rare lung condition, and it's like it took so long for me to be diagnosed because like they kept kind of like brushing it off as other things, and it was like I kept having to be like, well, let's do this test, if you say this would be the next step, well, let's go ahead and do it, don't just brush it off. Right. And I felt like that happened with a lot of other doctors. Like even I was supposed to have another surgery scheduled for the beginning of this year, and so I had a pre-op with this one doctor. He wasn't my doctor, but he was like the one they had available, and it was a guy because my surgeon is a lady. And so I kept asking him, like, because we hadn't got to the issue, like got down to the root issue of my lung issues, like because I was telling him I do have this issue breathing or whatever. And so even during the pre-op, I asked, like, are you sure like all of this would be fine? And he was like, yes. And I think at this point I had the breath test and stuff done. So it was like, I did have constriction. And so it's like, are we sure we're good to go? Yes. Well, 12 hours before the surgery, he calls me and was like, well, the anesthesiologist, which was a woman, is concerned and she might cancel the surgery. I'm like, okay. So later that night, like maybe like an hour later, the anesthesiologist called me and, she was so nice. And she was just like, basically, this could, be an issue. Basically, like I could die if I have the surgery and, they don't know what's going on in my lungs. She was like, basically because, the way the surgery is set up. And it's like, see, it took a woman to be like, this ain't what we need to be doing, but it's like all these. Well, yeah,
that's a whole other issue.
Exactly.
I mean, I do agree with you in terms of like when I look at my experiences overall in healthcare, that has been the case of, men being very dismissive, male doctors being very dismissive and very like, I'm just going to tell you this, and that's it, and what I say goes, and I'm not even listening to what you're fully saying. And so that speaks to a whole other issue of like, patriarchy and kind of like men being authority, especially white being authority. And so it's like, okay, what they say is the end all be all, even though no one is a bigger authority on you but you. Like, you're the biggest authority on your...
Exactly. And then also being black, you don't know what's going on with you because you black. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like that thing too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's like, oh, you don't know. Yeah. No, it is.
Yes.
Like, oh well, you're less intelligent because you're black. Like, oh, this black person don't know what they're talking about. Like, I am the authority, and you should go based off what I say, even though you know how your body feels, you know what you've been experiencing, but I'm the authority on it. And I'm just, that is such bullshit.
Exactly. But like I said,
it's really to me that's the, I mean, and we get, my thing is, I know why, and we get it because that happens on every level of society. So it's just kind of like, this is how that manifests in this realm, like in medical setting, but that's nothing new. Like, we literally deal with that in every environment.
Yeah, it sucks, and it's just, it's sad that we have to deal with that. Like you said, like, we know, like, who better knows me than me? I know what's going on in my body. Like I said, like, I didn't get diagnosed with my disease until the end of January, and I had been feeling like something was wrong since, like, I want to say July, August. So it was like, you know, I went like to urgent care because I felt like it was urgent at that point because I was like, I'm having a problem breathing. And they told me it was allergies. And I was like, I don't think so.
Because they're playing a guessing game though. Like, a lot of times they don't fucking know. They just they guess and rule things out until they figure out what it is, because that happened with my vision, my eye condition. They're like, oh, you have astigmatism, and my condition is always, well, not always, but like 90-something% of the time misdiagnosed as astigmatism. And I was like, no, it's not that. Glasses are not helping. Like, I know, I see through my eyes every damn day and I cannot see. It's not astigmatism. Like, I wear glasses and I still can't see. It's not that. And they argue me down. I mean, out here, they have been a lot more, but they have more knowledge in that area of that particular condition. Like, all the advances have been made out here. So as soon as they saw, they're like, oh, this is what this is. And I'm like, I know, but I had to go to several doctors when I was in Georgia and had several of them tell me the wrong thing or just say, oh, we don't know what to tell you, you know? So I'm just like, I'm trying to tell you, like, I know what the deal is. I don't know what it's called or anything, but I know what my vision is like. I know, that it's been declining rapidly, and it's not astigmatism. It's not something I can just go get LASIK for or something. But, they feel like they know better, and it is for a lot of reasons. Part of it is what you mentioned about, oh, well, you don't know anything, I don't know. It's very ridiculous to me. But then they wonder why we, don't want to go to the doctor. And so it's like, regardless of what it is, so everything is put back on us. So it's like, oh, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Or, well, you don't go to the doctor. So that's the problem. I'm like, your standards and everything are based off of people who are not remotely like me. You're basing your standards off of basically white people or white men. And I'm like, what the fuck does that got to do with me?
Right. Yeah. And it just boils down to like being your own advocate. Like, you just have to basically go hard in the paint for yourself and not take no for an answer, because they will know you down and try to just dismiss you. Because granted, you went to school for all this, but I know me. I know what's going on with me. Like, I know.
Right. You didn't go to school. And it's like, yeah, you went to school for all of this, but a lot of times your education did not include a cultural component. So you went to school for all this, but you did not learn about how to specifically deal with me from a cultural perspective. So you don't even have that competence. So there are gaps in what education can't be like the end all be all in terms of, well, I spent all this time in school, I have all these degrees, so I'm the authority. But it's like, no, there's still stuff missing from that. You're still missing a vital component, and then you're trying to tell me, what to do, or you're trying to quote unquote treat me when you're not equipped to do so. Regardless of all the education you have, you are not equipped to do that.
Right. Like, I went in when, after I got my diagnosis, I searched on Google, that was the only thing I could do. And it was like, when I went in to actually see the pulmonologist. Basically, like, he telling me stuff from Google, and I'm like, I already know this. Like, because really, there's no way to treat it. So it's like, I already know that. So like, what are we doing? Like, just tell me what we gonna do from here forward. Like, just tell me that, and don't tell me the stuff from Google because I already seen it. And basically, he's like, well, okay, well, we can just monitor it. Okay, well, tell me that. Don't try to like draw this out. Okay, like, I already know what's up, because y'all should be paying me at this point. But I went and got a second opinion, and it was just like the same thing, but it was like, I wasn't going to not go get a second opinion just because, you told me something. It's like, I don't care if I have to, I contacted anybody I could. I contacted the doctor at Cornell just to get something. But I mean, like I said, I realize it is something that they don't have a cure for or whatever, but like I said, you just have to be your own advocate up until a point, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm satisfied now.
I mean, we always have to be our own advocate.
True.
Always.
In everything.
Aspect,
yeah.
Exactly. In every aspect of our lives, we always, but the reality is, who better to do that than us? And then we have to really look at supporting one another in that too, because we are the most equipped to kind of like advocate for ourselves and one another. And we really can't rely on people who don't understand us like to do that. We just can't. Right. But we have to know kind of like what that looks like, how to support each other, which actually is something that I wanted to ask. So I'll ask that kind of as my, I guess, last question. So I wanted to know, what do you feel like you need in terms of when you think about community, a support system? If you could basically tell our folks who listen something that you feel like would really stick with them in terms of what, how they can be most supportive of someone in their life, if they are a part of a support system for someone who is both Black and trans, and not like compartmentalizing those things, but who are both. What is something that you would look for in terms of, okay, like, I'm looking at my support system, because we have to advocate for ourselves, but we are not islands. We do need one another. We do need to be able to show up for each other.
Right.
So
exactly.
It's like,
exactly.
You look back at what you've gone through. It's like, how would you, or do you need for your folks, your community, your sports to show up for you?
Just speak up. Like, anytime like something comes up, basically, anytime people, are attacking trans folks, especially, Black and brown trans folks, 'cause that's really where it's like aimed at, and just stand up. Like, sometimes, like, we don't want to have to do that emotional labor. Like, so I need for people who, if you support me, you have to support everyone like me, not just me just because you cool with me. You have to support everyone like me and show up for everyone like me. So don't just show up because of me. Show up for people who like me. So you have to be just in it for all of us. So, like, because, like I said, I can't do that emotional labor all the time. I can't fight all the time because it gets exhausting. So I need people who support me. Like I said, you got to support everyone like me and stand up for all of us. Be at the front lines with me, and sometimes take on, that weight from me. That's what's most important, because like support, like, it's good, but it's not well enough if you're not supporting everyone like me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's valid. It makes me think of, in the whole, when we look at like how women are treated and stuff like that, and people try to defend humanity by saying, oh, well, you have a friend, or like your mom, would you want someone to treat your mom like that, or your daughter? And I'm like, we have to step away from that and just say, these are people. We are all people. So it shouldn't have to be someone that's connected to you for you to recognize their humanity. You know what I'm saying? So that's what that speaks to. It's just like, okay, well, you need to acknowledge and support someone's humanity, regardless of, even if no one that you're close to, even if it doesn't impact you directly in any way. And I think that's something that we need to shift. We need to shift toward.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on and having a conversation with me. And like I said, I mean, I had, things in mind that I wanted to touch base with you on, and a lot of that stuff we did touch on. And then part of it, it was totally unexpected. And so I always kind of like when those things happen, because I didn't even think about really delving as much into healthcare as we did. But I do think it's very important. It's a very important Black issue, a very important trans issue, a very important queer issue across the board. So I'm glad that we did get to touch on that.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to make sure that I share your information because I do want people to cop some apparel. The Black Trans and Gifted shirt is just dope. It really is. And I mean, I may be biased because I was like, I saw y'all rocking the shirts and I was like, this is like a real good look.
Right, yeah.
Like, okay, I'm here for all this. I'll comment on the stuff on Facebook, but I'll make sure folks have your information.
Appreciate
so that they can, connect with you.
Yeah, and I thank you for having me because, when I saw you post about it, I was like, oh, this would be like really, really dope because, a lot of times they, center stuff around Black stuff or around queer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we need that intersection and I, just thankful to be able to be a part of it.
Thank you. That's what the whole goal is, because I do see a lot of things that are Black and that kind of exclude queerness, or that are queer that exclude Blackness. And I'm like, that's not my life. I can't relate to that because that's not my life. I am both of those things, as I navigate through this.
Right.
All right. I think we are done.
All right.
Black Radical Queer is a ManeHustle Media podcast hosted by Xavier and Nicole and produced and edited by Charmaine Johnson. Music is by Young Carts. You can find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Black Rad Queer. That's BLKRADQWR. And you can also listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to stay connected to us in our discussion group. It's called the BRQ Discussion Group on Facebook, where we will continue the conversations that we start in the podcast.
ManeHustle Media. Turn your side hustle into your main hustle.